Push me out.
What's the traffic total request? He's given us.
Again, Tony.
Call the Tuesday, May 7th, 2024 meeting of the Wethersfield Planning and Zoning Commission to order. I'll do the roll call since neither Joe or Ryan is here. I'm here, Ryan is not here, Joe is not here. Tom Deane?
Here.
Dave Drake?
Here.
Dave Edwards?
Here.
Tony Hemicki? Here. Jim Hughes? Not. George Oikel?
Here.
Joe Arcolani?
Here.
Pete Lambruni?
Here.
Paul Thompson. All right, so I get 6 regular members and 2 alternates. Both the alternates will be seated. We have 3 public hearings on the agenda tonight. The way it's going to work is at the beginning of each of the public hearings, the applicant will come forward, identify themselves by name and address for the record, talk about what it is that they would like to do. There'll be some questions from the commission, a little bit of back and forth. Following that, we'll open it up to members of the public who wish to comment on the application. They'll have a chance to do that. If you want to comment on an application, please come forward to the microphone, identify yourself by name and address so we get it for the record. Following the public comment, we'll have the applicant come back up and respond to any public comment, and there may be additional questions from the commission. If once we're done with that, the commission believes that we have enough information to make a decision and that there are no open items, we may close the public hearing and then go into deliberations on the application. If there are still things to be ironed out, additional information that we need, additional documents that have to be provided, we may continue the public hearing to our next meeting, which would be May 21st, I think. Yep. Same place, same time. So the first public hearing for 1000 Silas Deane Highway, we're continuing that to the first meeting in June at this point. Item 3.2, 218024Z, Brian Couzens, Mill Street Marketplace, seeking a site plan approval in accordance with Section 52D2, permitted principal uses of the Wethersfield Zoning Regulations for a retail vendor mall with 40-plus specialty shops at 36 Mill Street.
Hello, good evening, guys. So our plan is to take...
Could you just give us your name and address?
I'm sorry. Brian Couzens, home address 334 Wolcott Hill Road.
Okay, thanks.
Freya Van Cleve, 116 Garden Street.
Okay, thank you.
We are looking to take the old Yankee Dental factory and turn it into a vendor mall. And what we're looking to do is keep the structure the same. We're going to turn the back 60% into almost like, essentially would be a flea market, but it's open vendor space. The vendors rent the space, they bring in the goods. So it's not flea market quality, it's all going to be vintage items, mid-century artwork, jewelry, clothing, decorative accessories, seasonal items. So the intent was to, I partnered with Freya. Her mom actually has been running estate sales for 25 years. So we kind of all collaborated a little bit and decided that we're all getting too old to be doing the estate sale piece of it. So we were looking to maybe do something where we set something up, turn it into a retail piece, bring in 40 or 50 vendors, let them sell their goods. We have control over who sells what because we can be a little more selective as far as how many different types of categories are being sold. It saves us on payroll. We don't have to worry about staffing, which has been a huge issue for the last 4 years. I ran 2 businesses, and that's pretty much what was almost the downfall for me, was trying to get staffing. So by doing it this way, the vendors per se are actually owners, so they have more of an interest in being up to snuff, keeping their space clean, keeping their product good, turnover, bringing in the best of the best. So it's kind of a win-win in that sense. In the narrative that I sent over, this industry has a 92% success rate, and I attribute a lot of that to the fact that I think that you don't have to worry about having tons of staff that are just not in the mindset of working the way things used to be. So that's what I'm attributing the success rate to this for. Partnering up with Marnie and her daughter Freya, they have the background, they have the connections with the vendors, so we've already gotten a huge response from vendors, and this was before we even had a location. We were kind of just putting feelers out there, so I don't think we're going to have any issue getting the vendors to sign up for the space. And since we're kind of going from scratch here, we were able to customize it a little bit and give vendors larger spaces, give them things that some of the other competitors don't offer.
One of the things that I don't see in the materials is what days of the week and hours of the day do you plan to operate?
If that wasn't in what I sent over, I believe we were planning...
Well, maybe it was.
No,
I just
it
didn't
might
see
not
it.
have been. I think we did, I was doing one for the building department as well, and I didn't want to get too ahead of myself. But we were doing Tuesday through Sunday, and it was going to be like a 10 to 5, and then longer hours, I think, on Friday and Saturday, like 9 to 6 or 9 to 7 on the Friday and Saturday.
Okay. Is your expectation that all the vendors are going to be there all the time, or some of them will be there some of the time, or how does that work?
Ideally, they're not there at all. They set their space up and they get out. Usually, they cause more problems, so it's better sometimes that they set their shops up. A lot of these vendors have multiple shops in other districts. There's Keystone up in Western Mass, and a lot of those vendors have booths in different jurisdictions. So there'll be some that are in Worcester, Northampton, so they'll manage a few different booths. So they actually aren't there to man the booth. So we would employ someone, or one of us would be there to kind of man the ship, and then you would shop throughout the booths. And they're all kind of, I mean, I don't know if you've ever been to I mean, again, I hate to say flea market, but that's kind of what it is, but without having the tables set up in junk.
No, I mean, that was why I was asking, is because it was a long time ago when I went, and there were all these people with tables and stuff, and I just didn't know how it was going to work, to have 50 people sitting at
Yeah, no, it's definitely different than that. We would work something out when they're allowed to set their booth up and stock their booth, and we have a POS system that allows them to see what they sold. They're able to go in and UPC code each item, and they can figure out what they're selling, what they've sold, and then they'll kind of know when they need to come in, or we can just call them and say, hey, your booth is empty, you need to come in. And they're usually pretty good about it because they're paying rent, so they're going to want to make sure that they're getting a return on what they put in.
Okay. George?
Yeah, so, security, how are you going to handle that? You're going to have a cop around at all, or are you guys going to do the security in effect for any of the vendors?
You mean as far as theft, or?
Well, you know, how's this going to work? The people are going to come and present their wares, and then they're presenting their wares and selling it to somebody that walks along there, right?
Correct. I mean, it would, in essence, be like you going into a retail store. You would shop a department.
Okay.
So you could go through, I mean, the booths are 10 by 10 or 12 by 12, so.
So there are workers there.
Oh, there is staff there. I meant that the actual.
Staff of who?
We would have staff that would ring them out, and that would possibly help to the car, you know, like some grunt guy.
Who does the transaction?
Our staff would.
Your staff.
Our staff would do the transactions through the POS system.
One point of POS and...
One point of POS, we would collect sales tax, and Everything is set up by vendor.
And the barcode divides up with the money.
Correct. So you could make one purchase with 6 different
No, I got you.
items, and it would be on one receipt.
Good idea.
Peter?
Yeah, one of the comments here from our planner is about parking. Apparently, there's not the required amount of parking for this kind of an operation. And, you know, we have discretion here to waive a certain amount of, you know, parking needs, but I guess it's difficult for me personally to understand what that is without seeing how you plan on doing the parking here and what the flow of the traffic is going to be. Do you have anything like that?
Well, I did, and I spoke to building yesterday because we kind of were ping-ponging back and forth. If we needed to alter the handicap parking space, it was going to affect the line painting. So we have parking currently in the asphalt area for 44 spaces, and we can do 6 more on the west side along the building. So we would end up with 50 spaces, providing building doesn't require a second handicap space in the front, which would alter the line layout. So I did speak to Steve yesterday, and we kind of ping-ponged, and he said that unfortunately they won't know until we find out what happens tonight. So it was there's something with the Universal Building Code where he said we may be able to have the second handicap space in the back, which it's also a handicap accessible form of egress, but if both spaces have to be in the front for the main entrance, then it's going to alter the way we were going to do the line painting.
How much will it affect the parking? Because you said you have 50 and you need 52. So if you did have to go with the 2, how much more would it affect? Do you know?
If we had to go with the 2 and make one of the other questions was that I got back from P&Z was that it said list all forms of access and make sure they are ADA compliant. And there's 5 access doors, but only 3 are ADA compliant. So if one of the ones that's not ADA compliant has to become ADA compliant, it's going to affect the line striping. And that was something Steve couldn't answer until we've, I guess, finished here.
Okay. I'm not sure why not, but anyways.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. I mean, that's independent of what we're going to do tonight.
He said he couldn't, I don't want to start throwing anyone under the bus here. He said he couldn't answer if both spaces had to be in the front or if we were able to have one space in the back.
Right, but that'll be his call as the chief building inspector. That would be a requirement from the state. We would not stipulate that. That would be something you have to work out with him. And then depending if you do or do not need to, then you have to arrange your parking, and then we could see that and decide if it makes sense, or not. That's what I'm saying.
We can certainly do 2 handicap spaces. That's not an issue at all. It just wasn't, I wasn't going to do the parking lot line painting layout if he was going to change it and make us move one to the back.
Okay.
That's the only reason I didn't do it. But the parking is,
If you had 2 in the front, did you lose any other spaces someplace else?
no, we lost 2 in the front because the handicap spaces are larger. So it just altered that. But because the main entrance is in the front, there's 1 space in the front which would be van accessible. And then I'd ask the question if the back entrance, since it is ADA compliant, if we put a second space back there, if that would work. I'm surprised he didn't.
Yeah. So, Justin, I'm going to kind of roll this back to you. Sure. You brought up the issue in your write-up that it would be nice to see what it is. We don't have anything to look at. And maybe one of your suggestions was, giving them time to do that. How do you feel about that? Sounds like it's going to be anywhere from 50 to something like 48, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, so, I mean, if they have 50, I'm not concerned. The reason for that is because we require the 52, but when there's a change of use that takes place and the previously required less parking, you can waive it by up to 15%. So that would be fine. I wouldn't see an issue there. If we found out it was going to be instead of 44, it was going to be like 40 with the moving, then I'd be concerned. But, if we're talking in the 50 range, I'm less concerned about that.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, I'm less concerned now that I know that 40 of the spaces aren't going to be taken up by the vendors sitting on folding chairs
no.
there all the time.
That was another huge factor too, was the fact that there's not, it's our staff, so there's not going to be a huge staff as well. And I wasn't sure if the 5 per 1,000 was based on building square footage or just the retail space. Because there's about 2,000 square feet that's offices and a workshop in the back that won't be part of the retail. The retail is about 8,100. So I don't know if that altered the...
Yeah, I mean, it still sort of counts, but that can certainly count towards if they decide to, wait.
Yeah, I tried to do all I didn't realize the building piece until yesterday, which is my bad, but I did call Steve, and I would have even put this off if he recommended it, but he said that he thinks it would be not something that would be detrimental.
Okay.
I had a question. If I'm a business and I come rent a spot from you, I take it to either monthly or whatever, am I allowed to use your address as my business address? Say I have an internet business and I have low inventory and I need a mailing address. If I rent a spot from you, can I call that my office?
I would say no. I think that's opening too much liability up for us.
Just wanted
Most of the vendors that are either incorporated LLC or this is what they do, their following is on social media, so they would advertise, come see my booth at Keystone, come see my booth in Binghamton, come see my booth here. So it's more of a booth space, not necessarily like an address. I mean, that's actually it's a good question. I don't know, it hasn't come up, and I don't know that we've even gave it any thought, but we probably could. I would definitely bring our attorney into that one. I just don't know if it opens up any liability, if it becomes an address, as opposed to just renting a space for a 3-month,
I just want to know how permanent the booths were, that's...
Well, no, the lease could be, everyone signs an actual lease, and there's a sales and, use agreement, but it's a good question, and it would definitely be something for our attorney, for sure.
Well, I would think that the vendor wouldn't want to do that because somebody goes and delivers a whole bunch of stuff to their booth and they're not there and they don't know about it.
Well, I don't think that's what you meant. You meant...
What I'm saying is, could a business who rents a spot from you use your location as a mailing address?
Yeah, I'm going to say I don't think so. I think what you were saying was them getting goods received. The booth owner is the only one that would probably be managing their inventory, or one of their workers. But they're not going to have goods delivered, just dropped on the door, and we have to do something with them. They have to maintain their booth.
Right, but if they use your place
Oh, you mean use it
business
as...
address,
Oh, as the delivery...
nobody would know anywhere else to go.
Correct, yeah. I guess if they were getting something delivered, that would be kind of the exception, but I don't know that they can use it as like a mailing address. I mean, they could use it as a delivery address if they're getting a delivery of goods for their space.
So your people will be handling the deliveries?
No, that's...
They'll be dropped off by them?
Yeah, the delivery thing is it's kind of new. That's not really the way it goes. Most of them, they're not delivering anything huge. This is mostly things that you would be able to walk in and walk out with. It's unlikely you're going to be purchasing a sofa or something like that. They're more things that you would kind of do on an impulse. Furniture is more grab furniture as opposed to large furniture.
I was just trying to establish that people...
No, your question is really good. It's a
buying
good...
office spaces from you, or...
Yeah, no, it's actually a great question, and I wish I had a good answer.
Other Dave?
This is kind of interesting what business you have, but basically if someone had no idea what you were doing, they'd walk in, it would look like a regular retail store, right? There's no walls, people have areas, but you just go look at it, you buy it, and you walk to the front and check it out. So
Correct. The vendors kind of make their own dividers with screens or with,
tables.
exactly. And I don't know how familiar you are with the building. The back factory piece was pretty wide open. There is a wall dividing, and then there's a small section in the front of that, which is dead center of the building. And there'd be some booths in there as well. So as far as being just one wide open square, it's not exactly that drawing that I sent in shows that there's a small section in the front that does have a little bit of division.
So for our purposes, it's really not much different than just a retail store, just the way you set up your
Exactly.
business
Yep.
is different.
If you didn't know, you wouldn't know. A lot of the shoppers do know that they're, and
Yeah.
each vendor can kind of put their own twist on it, so they can put up a sign, or they can kind of make it their own space.
Yeah, I got
So
it.
it might say, Granny's Attic, or, Margot's, Fashions, or whatever, so you can kind of see their own piece, but for the most part, you wouldn't really
And
know.
again, you want all your guys successful, but you really don't care as long as they rent their spot.
Right, well, exactly, and we're able to make sure that there's not 6 clothing vendors or 6 jewelry vendors, so we can kind of...
No, I understand. You want
So
the
this way, it'll be a
retail
good mix of everything. So it'll be like going into a retail store.
Yeah, it's good, right, okay, good, it's a good plan.
George?
Yeah, when I went around the building, there's a couple, pieces that need to be replaced, and then maybe some shrubbery around the outside edges that needs to be kind of cleaned up a little bit. It's not bad. I've seen it worse down there
It's pretty bad.
10, 20 years ago, but, no, you're going to be doing some of that, are you?
Yeah, the plan was, this was Phase 1. Phase 2 was going to be, we were going to try to take advantage of the facade program, and we already got some quotes for hardscape, softscape, the windows, an awning, and then in the back, in my initial narrative, I put that there was a carport. It's really a metal roof over a piece of asphalt, which I believe they had some industrial equipment underneath it. Half of it is already enclosed with T111. We were going to enclose the second half and make it more of
Well, you're
a...
going to make things more solid back there.
Correct. That was the
Than
plan.
tint type.
Yeah, it wouldn't take up any of the parking spaces, even though there is asphalt in the back. But yeah, the front is overgrown, and it needs a
Okay.
little, doesn't need a little TLC. But that was all going to be part of the facade
Okay,
program,
custom.
which...
Yeah, that was one of the items in the memo from the town engineer, was, identifying the parking spaces and showing that there's adequate parking, identifying all the access locations and confirming ADA requirements, and sort of explaining the carport.
Yeah, it's not a carport. I called it a carport because if you looked at it, that's what it looks like. It's a metal
It's like a
awning over.
Yeah.
But they had some big, huge equipment under there that was vented out through the top of the metal, so I'm assuming that it was just for protection, but it wasn't, that's all gone now, so we were gonna just enclose the rest of it and keep it for like seasonal items. Do patio furniture, kind of like Home Depot or Lowe's, their indoor garden center, kind of make it an indoor shop thing where it's not part of the building, where it's not enclosed 100%, it's not watertight, but the walls will go up all the way, so it'll be more of like a garden center.
You got the comments from the fire marshal about basically occupancy requirements in a Knox box?
I did.
Okay. George?
Yeah. See, what the heck was I going to ask? Sorry.
Well, we'll come back to you.
Yeah, please do.
The lease term, 6 years? Why 6 years? It sounds like you could be successful and you wanted to, what do you do then? Am I right? I don't know if it's,
Well, you are right. I mean, it was the first time that the landlords had bought the building in November of '22. It had been empty, I think, since then. They had a bunch of different people looking at it, and I was trying to go in with a fairly aggressive offer that I thought they would find appealing, and I did. They took it.
so there's no extended clauses?
We got almost a year free rent, so I did a 5-year lease with like a year free. So that's where the 6 came from.
I looked at the town records for permits. The last permit was taken out in 2002. How's the condition in the inside? And are you doing all the renovation work yourself?
It's disgusting.
Wow.
Well, fortunately, we're not doing anything structural or engineering. Since the back was like a factory where they made molds and teeth, the whole entire back was just cinder walls, so everything has already been taken out of there. So it really needed like spit and polish, and that's what we did. We're going to paint everything. The landlord agreed to replace the drop ceiling tiles and all the fluorescent lights with LED lighting. And there's like 150 of those. So he's working with Energize CT, I think, to do that program. And the rest of it we're taking on, we're going to do ourselves.
about the lighting in the parking lot? Is there any major changes out there?
We were, but that was going to be part of the Phase 2 with the facade program, because that was included. So I kind of was,
If your hours are only 10 to 5, it really won't apply too much.
right, but we would still want light. I mean, we had a camera company come out to do some camera, surveillance, so we'll have outdoor cameras, indoor cameras, but we would still want lighting for, obviously, for security. It's a kind of a dark, that back is pretty dark. It's right by the train track, so it's,
What's the condition of the office area in the front?
those are immaculate. I don't think they were used.
George?
Yeah, our town planner, you satisfied with the parking issue?
Yeah, I think if
Resolved?
the commission puts a condition on it, just that staff, both planning and engineering staff, have to review it and ensure that the parking is going to be met and the drive aisles and everything like that will be met, I think that'd be okay.
It'd be okay.
Yep.
Yeah, after I meet with Steve, I can submit the lined proposal that they actually work out. I just didn't want to I didn't want to pay to have them do it if we were going to have to change the entire thing. It just didn't, I know we could do the 44 spaces, so I figured I can certainly show that if that's a contingency.
Back to you, just, if it turns out that it's less than required, do you need us to do something tonight on that? Or can you guys decide that?
So you guys can grant the 15% waiver of the 52, so I would just recommend that you, the best way to do it might be to say, it's approved with the condition that there are X number of spaces, so as long as there's 48 spaces, it's good.
Okay.
Or no less than 50?
Sure. Something like that.
All right.
Okay. And I don't remember, is it clear that the parking lot is separated from the driveway cut through to the
It is.
to the other place?
Yeah, it's divided. It's not a very big gap between the driveway,
It's
but
very
it is-
strange.
but it is
Starting
divided. yeah.
there's a separate entrance that goes all the way down to the end of where Starling is, and then there's like a asphalt, there's some arborvitae, and then there's some rock that kind of swerves over. I have a larger plan, I don't know if you have the bigger plan, it actually shows it a little better.
No, I just wanted to make sure that it's separate, so that we weren't having to worry about, too much about
Yeah, you can't, if you pull
parking
into ours,
conflict or anything. I just knew it was kind of weird.
it loops, or you can pull in our parking lot and go all the way around behind the building and then come out. There's a receiving door with a man door, and then you can pull out on the second entrance. So there's an entrance on both sides.
Okay.
But it's not a shared curb cut with
Correct.
Starling.
Okay.
And that driveway in to the big parking lot is not their responsibility, but is it adequate?
The Starling Drive?
The width, probably is what I'm concerned with.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
But they don't have to do anything about that.
No.
They're not.
Right.
It's not their property.
Because people aren't going to park out there on it, are they?
No,
If there was a big crowd?
I wouldn't think so.
Okay.
No, I don't think
They
that.
might go out in a big lot.
Yeah, they might go on the lot, they're not going to
Yeah,
park on the
okay.
road.
I don't know, I'm just trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
What might happen back there.
I thought you'd ask about the picnic table, George.
I might.
You don't have to.
Yeah.
No, you going to ask?
No,
You
no.
want it?
Go ahead.
You want it?
He's offered it to you,
You
George.
give me a hard time.
We'll sell you the picnic table.
You can have it.
I might have.
All right, anything else before we open it to the public?
Yeah, it's not a public hearing.
Oh, really?
No, just like that.
Okay. All right, good. Any other questions for the applicant? Anything else you want to tell us?
Not that I do, no.
All right, somebody want to make a motion?
I make a motion. Motion to approve application number 2180-24-Z, Brian Couzens, Mill Street Marketplace, seeking a site plan approval in accordance with section 5.2.D.2 of the Wethersfield Zoning Regulations for a retail vendor mall with 40-plus specialty shops at 36 Mill Street.
All right. You want the condition that their parking plans show no less than 48 spots?
Okay.
Does that work for you?
Good idea.
And it should be in compliance with the engineer's requests, fire marshal, and town planner's observations?
Yeah, the memo from the engineer dated April 26th, memo from fire marshal dated May 7th, and memo from town planner dated May 3rd.
I'll second the motion. That's what we need.
All right. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? All right, good luck.
All right, hey, thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
All right, this one is a public hearing. 218124Z, AM Group seeking a special permit in accordance with Section 52A2, permitted principal uses, and a waiver in accordance with Section 54B1, dimensional and area requirements of the Wethersfield Zoning Regulations for a 4-story mixed-use building at 718 Silas Deane Highway.
Already rolling it. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Okay to begin?
Yes.
Yeah, good evening. I'm PJ Cimini with Government Solutions Group, and on behalf of the entire AM Group team with you tonight, we're pleased to be here and present you with our plans for a 4-story mixed-use apartment building with office space at 718 Silas Deane Highway, currently the Wethersfield Diner. In the application before you tonight, seek a special permit in accordance with Section 5.2.A.2 and a waiver in accordance with Section 4B1 of the Wethersfield Zoning Regulations. Our presentation agenda tonight will include the following. We'll hear from our civil engineer, Marcus Puttick of Godfrey, Hoffman and Hodge, who will review a number of the submissions and go through the photos and designs for you. And next you'll hear from our traffic engineer, Mark Vertucci of Fuss & O'Neill, who will present some of the traffic study and findings. Also joining tonight are the two owners of 718 Silas Deane Highway, Bill Mutara and Ed Alans, who are available to answer any questions you have and be available during the presentation. I'd like to just highlight a couple things before we get started. First, one of the most exciting parts of this proposal is that the owners of this parcel are people you know and the town knows, because they are the owners of the Oakland Market right next door. And many of you may have had experience. I know they worked with the town. And I'd ask you, if you want to see the kind of quality work they do, please go down, visit the site, and see some of the materials used and the work done there. One of their goals is to build upon that design continuity of that into this project on this site and provide a seamless and pleasing exterior experience for this part of the Silas Deane Highway, which in our hopes is to create a more pedestrian-friendly, boulevard-type experience on this area. We've also had the opportunity to go before the Design Review Advisory Committee last week and received the unanimous support and had some really good discussions. And I think we learned some things that are going to be integrated and you're going to hear about tonight. Second, we met with town staff very early and we're pleased to listen to a number of the suggestions and recommendations they had, and many of them are integrated into the proposal you're going to hear tonight. In terms of traffic, I think you'll hear from our traffic engineers, one of the more exciting things is this is a significantly positive, meaning lowering of traffic, and you're going to hear from that. We think it really adds to, in a positive way, the Silas Deane experience. We took the opportunity to meet proactively with Kevin Sullivan of Bike Walk Wethersfield, because one of the goals is to integrate the project into this new intermodal approach on the Silas Deane Highway, and also encourage walking and biking into Old Wethersfield, into the town center. And you'll hear some of the positive options there, including we had some discussions about things like the bike stand outside of Town Hall with the tools, bike racks, into this new area on the side.
You've talked to who on that?
Kevin Sullivan's the president of Bike Walk Wethersfield.
Oh, yes. Go.
He actually rode his bike to the site, which was great, when we met him there.
And he was supportive of you and made these suggestions.
Yes, we've had very positive discussions, and I think you'll hear some of the integration in there.
Okay.
Some of you may know there's a bus stop there as well, and one of the really positive parts of this proposal is that we're removing a curb cut, which is right near the bus stop, and this is going to create a much more safer and kind of integrated approach for transit, people who ride the bus, either who live nearby or work in the area. And
Bus stop is on the southern side, Silas Deane, on the south side of the entrance.
I think is it more on the north side?
It's the north side.
North side more, yeah.
Okay,
And that's where the curb cuts,
wait a second.
you'll hear it from the engineer.
Okay.
And then finally, just the greening of this, I'd ask you to keep an eye out for what is a significant change to the exterior, the visual that you're going to experience. The owners were very committed to, as you know, it's all asphalt now. And one of the goals was to, in integrating it, was to also create green, grass, trees, shrubbery, and you're going to hear some of that. That came out of the discussions with the Design Review Advisory Committee. So now, with your okay, I'll turn it over to Marcus Puttick, our civil engineer, and we'll be here to answer any questions. Well, we got one already, yes.
George, I'm going to turn off your microphone.
No, I want to ask questions while I think of. Have you dealt with this, the CL&P lines behind you?
I think
He's going to address that when he talks.
not only did he address it, he had like experience right next door, so you'll hear some of that.
Yeah, I don't think CL&P is acting correctly on this kind of thing. But anyway.
Well, the owners will share with you that discussion. Thank you.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Marcus Puttick. I'm a civil engineer and land surveyor with an office at 26 Broadway in North Haven. So I'll start with the site plan just briefly. To the north of our site is the gas station, as you just heard, and this existing site is obviously the old Wethersfield Diner, which is currently entirely paved area with a building. There's very little vegetation. Essentially, all existing improvements on the site are to be removed, and one of the curb cuts, the northerly curb cut, is to be removed. Sidewalks out in the state right-of-way will be repaired per state requirements. A new apron will be installed at the southerly driveway to state standards and per state requirements. The bus stop is just north of the driveway, essentially here where the arrow is pointing. So just right next to our sidewalk, our proposed sidewalk from the building itself up to the state sidewalk out in the right-of-way. So the building is located, entirely on our property in the front. We have some storm drainage in the front yard. This storm drainage is essentially just a grassed area that's depressed by about a foot. It has permeable material below so that water can seep down through it quickly, the grass quickly, and be stored and dissipate in an orderly fashion, over time. But to control some of the runoff on the site, we have added that storm drainage in the front. We have parking along the south side of the building, including 2 handicap spaces, and then parking along the back of the building, and then finally just an exit out into the gas station's parking lot, which then leads you into, or out onto Wells Road. That will be noted as an exit only, so from the gas station, there will be signs that say, "Do not enter," and it is primarily for emergency vehicles and trash collection, and I'll go through that in a moment. To the east of the rear of the parking, we have another small grassed area that will collect storm water. So space on this site, which was entirely paved previously. We are actually reducing it by a couple of square feet. I think it's 40 or 50 square feet. So it's not a huge reduction, but it is a reduction. We are, and we are adding and providing some storm drainage and water renovation, which does not currently exist. As the site exists now, there is no stormwater control of any kind. It runs off out into the state highway through the two curb cuts and runs off the back of the parking lot into the grassed area in the CL&P easement. So that's it for the site plan.
So you bring your parking right up to the CL&P right away?
Some of our parking is under the right of way, yes.
Okay.
Yes, so the line will go up over the parking, similar to how it does at the gas station.
Yeah.
So some of our parking is down below the...
Is the dashed line the
This is our property line, this is an easement. This is the easement line that we are... So this is our property line, and then this is the easement line. That we
So
will have.
those parking spaces are going in, what?
They're in CLMP's, they're on CLMP's
On
property, yes.
CL&P's land?
Exactly the same as they
You
are.
want to do that?
They will lease this land, yes.
Who you got that can talk to them?
They do the same thing at the gas station next door.
Okay.
It's entirely the same situation.
George, we have others in town like this. This
That
is,
should be nicer to CL&P.
It should
They
be.
do provide my electricity.
Yeah.
More than they turn it
maybe
on.
they'll give you a picnic table, George.
Yeah, they're gonna raise your rates if you're not nice to them.
I know. I'll be nice. No, I'm
Okay.
done.
I can continue on? That's it for the...
Please do.
Okay. All right, so here we have the vehicle turning movement. We wanted to show that there were some concerns about trash collection, and so we show from a trash vehicle making the right turn off of Silas Deane, not crossing any lines of traffic, working its way to the back, collecting trash, and then exiting through our one-way exit out onto Wells Road. One of the town engineer's comments was that this doesn't exactly align. Those trash bins would be rollouts, so they can, the truck would get as close as he can, roll them out, collect, put them away. One of his other comments was that we show that a fire truck can make that same movement, and we're happy to make those changes and comply with his request. So, next. We have a landscaping plan. We've added a considerable amount of landscaping per all of your requirements. We spent a fair amount of time adjusting which plants would be here and trying to create a lush green environment, but as well as some grassed areas to create a good environment. All of the street trees and perimeter trees that your regulations require are shown. I can answer questions about specific plants, but if you do not have the package, we can certainly get you the planting plan for you to review. I have a lighting plan with so we have 4 post lights, which have this post head on them, shine light downwards in the parking area in the front. We've tried to pick a light that sort of matches what the town plan shows for a lighting head, a more classical lighting head. And then we have a few of these floodlights which face down to flood some of the back areas so that for parking safety, that light should not be able to be visible from Silas Deane or any of the other roads or properties around it.
Rich?
We provide a grading plan.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Just the square up in the top of the sidewalk, is that, you're filling it in? You show, one of your plans, you show X's.
This?
Yeah, what's that? Is that being filled
That's-
or is that
that's
being
the-
removed?
That's the new sidewalk that's closing in, that will
Fills in the old spot.
be, it fills in the driveway that was
And then
there.
taking out the barricade.
Yeah, so it's just noting the piece of the sidewalk that we absolutely know we have to replace. If any other sidewalks are damaged on either side of it, obviously they'll be replaced per the town and state requirements, but that's an area we know for sure we will have to replace, so that's why we show it that way.
I can replace it all.
We have a full grading plan that was provided. I don't have a lot to say about it. If you have any questions on it, I certainly am happy to entertain them. We've provided an erosion control plan, which protects the one catch basin out in the front of Silas Deane, denotes where we would stockpile materials as needed, and our erosion and sediment controls that are required per state standards. And then the rest of the sheets are strictly details. I will go to...
Yeah, Peter, do you have a question?
Before you move on,
Okay.
you went through the maneuvers for the two large trucks, and I think in both cases, though you didn't show the fire truck, but you said you could probably accommodate it as well. It sounds like in both cases, you're going to be exiting out to the adjoining property?
Yes,
All right, so these are two properties owned by the same person, right?
they are.
What would happen if he sells off the,
An easement would be provided, so we would have to create an agreement
So-
ahead of time that can be used in
So
perpetuity.
the maneuvers would not work if they sold it and no easements could be given? Is that a correct statement?
Right, but we're going to have an easement letter.
We will have that prior to this being built, there will be that.
No, I understand this.
So, but yes,
But in the
if it
future-
wasn't there, if for some reason, somehow it got extinguished,
You'd have to regrade that backyard somehow, right?
well, I did have a plan that would show, they would have to have cars not in the parking spaces, but at least a garbage truck, an SU-30 that's about 40 foot long, can back up into a parking space, turn around and go.
You wouldn't be able
That's-
to, I mean,
it's
you
not
wouldn't be able to sell
ideal.
the property unless they agreed to it, right?
You'd almost have to...
It'd be on the land records, yeah, so we're not,
Yeah.
yes, we're going to create a permanent access through there that they wouldn't be able to extinguish prior to this, because for that exact
Right,
reason.
The reason I bring it up, does that need to be a condition of any approval here? That's really my question.
I would recommend that, just
Yeah,
requiring that the easement be filed before, construction begins, something like that.
All right,
That's right.
Yeah, it's kind of tricky because, the owner can grant an easement, but Eversource still owns the property.
that's true too.
Yeah.
So I was going to move on to, this is a,
Just before you leave.
Yeah.
What our chairman just said, it makes a lot of sense. You're really dealing with two entities here, your owner and Eversource. I guess I'd like to ensure that if this thing ever falls apart and you don't have that, will you still be able to do something by regrading the back? Have you worked that out? If you didn't have that exit,
we wouldn't need to really regrade it, we would just have to provide for, vehicles turning around, so they would have to ask owners to move their car if the garbage truck is coming or whatever. There is space within the parking lot to turn them around if we had to make or lose a few parking spaces to create a permanent turning around area, then that's what we would have to do.
all right, sounds like it's not a killer on the project, you just have to do some accommodation, right?
Yes, we're going to have to get some accommodations from CLMP and from ourselves as the owner of the adjacent parcel.
You happy with that, Pete?
Yep.
So what you're looking at now is sort of a rendering of what we believe the building will look like. It's not exactly the same, but and mostly because this was envisioned on a completely flat piece of land, which our site is not. It does have some slope towards the back, but it is very, very close to what we would propose. So as you can see, it's a 4-story building with a retail space here in the front. And as we,
Is there a big planter in the front with a wall, a sign or something? What is the, again, rectangular double square behind that sidewalk thing I said, to the right of it? Right up there.
here,
Keep going up, 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 up. right there.
this?
Yeah.
That's what I'm calling a detention pond. It's a 1-foot depression in the grass
Okay.
that the water can collect in
Okay.
and seep down into our permeable
Is it gonna be
material
like
below.
stone around it, looking at it, or just,
It'll be just lawn,
just lawn? Okay. so-
Yep.
Okay.
with plantings all around
A
it.
1-foot depression, maybe?
Yeah, it's just a 1-foot, yeah, I mean, it's like,
Safety issue.
yeah, it's like 5 foot, and it goes down 1 foot in 4 or something like that. So it's a very soft depression. It won't be tremendously noticeable, it's not so,
Why
it's not like a
why
pit or
do you
anything.
need that? Just 'cause you want
Just
to
for
get-
storm drainage, yes, for collecting and renovating
Did you
stormwater
calculate something and
before.
said you needed it, or you just wanted to be a good guy to figure you put it in there?
The town engineer asked us to
Okay.
include
No, fair enough, okay.
accommodation for 1 inch of rain, so
Okay, no, fair enough, okay.
that's what we've done.
Marcus, where's your snow shelf? Where's the snow going to be?
The snow shelf is essentially our rear detention area. It's about 6 foot wide, so, and all the way across the back, just a grassed area that's reasonably level that we can
And it's called
push all
a
of the
snow
shelter.
shelf? A grassed area?
No storage areas.
Yeah,
Storage,
yeah,
but grassed in the rest of the year? Okay.
yes,
The grass will be under the snow.
No.
yes.
It'll be dead.
So I'll just quickly go through the few renderings as we go past the handicap spaces, main entrance for residential use, retail entrance for a retail or commercial. We don't envision it being a busy store or anything like that. The commercial component, we would more envision being some sort of a low traffic office space, more so than a store. Yeah.
Another question. Any retailers lined up at this point?
No, actually.
You're talking to people.
Yeah,
ladies.
introduce yourself first, and then, yeah, absolutely.
It's William Mukherjee, address 7 North Washington Avenue in Plainville, Connecticut. So the idea is not to have it full blown out retail where people can just walk in anytime and buy stuff. It's more by appointment only. It's kind of like a lawyer office or a real estate office where they're not always there. They have to show apartment, come back. It's by appointment, or like a lawyer, they have to meet one customer every hour or so. Most of the time in the morning, they're not in the office, they're in a courtroom or something. Or something by appointment. It's not something that you have retail and people walking in and out. That's the idea, to reduce the traffic as well on that space. I hope I answered your question.
And you're working on it.
Does that affect the parking?
We are working on it. Hopefully, I'm sure there's a lot of people. It's the site facing the Silas Deane Highway. It's big. Like big part of the store will be facing Silas Deane Highway. So I guess it's very good office space for an office or retail. So yeah, we're working on it.
Oh, we think it is. We'd like to see it filled up, though.
That whole floor is going to be this retail, or is it going to be apartments on the lower floor at all?
There are several apartments on the lower floor as well as...
In the back?
Yeah, on the back and the other side, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So there's 4
There's
apartments on...
three actually. Three on the back of the building, on the side of the building, gas station. So there's 3 apartments, a big lobby, and a retail area.
Okay.
Are there going to be, is there going to be like an office for the management and a place like where packages get delivered or any other amenities?
There is utility room, there's other room over there for service. As far as packaging, the lobby is big enough, I guess, to accommodate, if there's any boxes or mailing on the wall on the side. if there's any deliveries or any. Most of the management for the building is going to be done off-site. It's not going to be on the building itself. Yes.
With that,
Are the apartments two-bedroom apartments or one-bedroom apartments, or?
They're all 2 bedrooms apartment. They're all.
You did this once before on the previous one. Can you explain the logic of how 18 apartments with 2 people in them and a retail can survive on 31 parking places?
we complied with your regulations on parking.
I'm saying if I have 18 apartments, two people have cars, you got 36 people, and then you have to support the retail. I know that, I think before you said that people leave during the day and people don't.
They do.
I envision on the weekend there being, 50 cars trying.
That may be, it also could be part of the rental agreements that, you either rent 1 or 2 spaces as well to come with your apartment. The regulations require 1.5 spaces per unit, and that's what we've provided. And so I can't speak to every apartment having 2 cars because I don't know whether that's going to happen or not. If it does, well, they'll have to do something about it if it does, to accommodate those folks, or those folks just won't rent there. With that, that's basically my part of the presentation. I'd like to introduce our traffic engineer. Coming up, Mark, and speak on traffic.
Appreciate it. Yeah, let's go to the site plan, sure. Good evening, I'm Mark Fertucci. I'm a senior transportation engineer at Fuss & O'Neill. We're located at 146 Hartford Road in Manchester. I am a registered professional engineer in Connecticut and a professional traffic operations engineer as well. So we had just prepared a trip generation statement or letter just to compare the expected traffic generation between the existing diner restaurant use and what's being proposed with the residential use in the ground floor office. So I just want to briefly describe our findings here for you. As I mentioned, has been mentioned, we're looking at 18 residential apartment units, and the space on the ground floor is about 710 square feet, so a very small space that would be used by that appointment-only office. So to calculate the traffic generation for those uses, we did utilize the Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Manual. It's an industry-accepted resource for determining traffic generation. So for the apartment use, we utilize Land Use Code 230, which is low-rise residential with ground floor commercial. We also utilize Land Use Code 712 for small office. So we were kind of a little bit conservative there because the one use has the ground floor commercial, and we added the office as well. So what the total trips would be with those 2 land uses, in the morning peak hour, we're generating 9 trips, 3 entering cars and 6 exiting cars. In the afternoon peak hour, 8 trips, 6 entering cars and 2 exiting vehicles. So as you can see, this is a very low traffic generating use. Just to compare with the existing restaurant use on the site, the restaurant's just shy of 2,000 square feet. For a high turnover sit-down restaurant of this size, the IT manual indicates 19 trips are generated in the morning peak hour and 18 trips in the afternoon peak hour. So comparing the two, we're looking at 10 fewer vehicle trips in both the morning and the afternoon peak hour with the proposed use versus the existing use on the site. So this proposed use will have less of a traffic impact on the adjacent roadway network of the Silas Deane and Wells Road as well. I did want to touch on the site access. It has been mentioned, but not to beat a dead horse, but we are consolidating curb cuts here, which is very important on the Silas Deane. There's a lot of curb cuts. Access management is always good, so reducing from 2 to 1 will make traffic operations safer by providing less points for turning conflicts on the site frontage. The driveway we're keeping, being the southerly drive, is the farthest drive away from the traffic signal at Wells Road, so that's another good thing. We're keeping those turning movements further away from the intersection. And the rear egress drive out to Wells Road also will help in that a vehicle wanting to turn left out of the site in those high traffic periods in the peak hours, when it's, the volume's highest in the Silas Deane, hardest to turn left, they can go out the back and then get the traffic signal at Wells Road to make their left-hand turn. So this is great plan for access management, and will be safer for vehicles entering and exiting the site. The last thing I wanted to mention is, should this get approved, that curb cut on the Silas Deane, obviously it's a state road, we would have to still submit to the Department of Transportation's District 1 office for an encroachment permit review. So the DOT would be looking at that driveway operation as well. So with that, I think I'll turn it back to PJ, and we can answer any questions. Sure.
Any questions for the traffic engineer?
George?
Maybe, yes?
Yeah. In other words, you're satisfied that you've applied all your principles to this site, but you haven't met with DOT though?
Not yet, no. They
Well, talk to them.
Right, the encroachment permit process, they won't even look at it until there's a town approval in
But I
place.
gotta ask you anyway, right?
Yeah.
I know what your answer is.
Right, I would think they would love this plan, because
They
we're
want to
taking
hear
it,
from us.
we're taking a curb cut off their road,
Okay, that's.
they'll love it.
I tried.
And certainly, Mark has their
I
number.
thought maybe you had
Yeah.
somebody down there that you knew you could talk to, but no.
Well, I think Fuss and O'Neill is not an unknown
Unethical
entity there, yeah. Just two quick things, want to make a point. One, we are in receipt of the town engineer's memo, which went out at 4:30 today, and I think a preliminary look shows nothing of major. We'll obviously integrate and however you think. And just to the point of office, the commercial use. There was discussion early on about retail. I think in discussions with the town, we do not envision this being a retail traffic entity. It is a attorney office, accountant, counselor, an engineer, someone who is, and in today's kind of work environment where people are working hybrid and all over, it's a really nice fit, a professional, good location. This is not any kind of retail, and I think that was maybe from earlier. We just want to make that point, and that drove some of Mark's conclusions in his findings in the traffic. But with that, I'm happy the owners, we're all here, happy to answer questions or whatever your goal is, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody?
I gotta say one more thing.
Oh,
This is our second meeting. We did a pre-application
yeah.
meeting. We did listen to your feedback, your concern, everything. We had a meeting as well with the design review meeting. We did as well take it into consideration. We met with a lot of people around here, and we talked with a lot of people, and we're trying to kind of embed different ideas as far as the residents, the history of Wethersfield, the naming of the building. We're trying to implement what's best for walking pedestrians, a bus stop, bikes. We met a lot of people. We worked on Oakland Fresh Market since 2002. I'm not residents of Wethersfield, but I love the city, and I learned a lot about Wethersfield during that project, and hopefully if we get this approved, we're going to be here for the next, I guess, year or so, working on it. I did learn a lot about Wethersfield history, people,
Great
current
town.
project, great town. It's an amazing town.
Why don't you say that?
The center, we are in the center of Wethersfield, and Wethersfield is the center. It is West Far, Hartford near us over there. There's a lot of potential in the city, a lot of people moving in, working in, going out. So there's a lot of potential in the city. So my point is we learned a lot and we embedded a lot of ideas, feedback from different people in that project.
George?
What the design review really say to you, can you summarize their basic comments? And
Absolutely.
watch it, because one of the members has talked to me, so.
Also, do you want me to talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, I could just give my 2 cents and then happy to. So this is kind of a quiz then, right? I think there were some ideas taken from that in terms of what to put there and how to approach it. But certainly from the materials, the building exterior, there was a comfort level with what had happened in Oakland Market. We had some of the materials there that night.
Correct.
And I think we've integrated that into this.
They had a couple comments about landscaping. They wanted to
On
see,
how?
right, not just small shrubs around the building. They want to see couple trees, and we embedded some of the rendering. We want to have some tree. They had a concern. They don't want to see that overgrown tree where there's a lot of maintenance, or shrubs where trees goes very high. They want to see something moderate, and we promised them we'll work with a landscaping company to come up with a proper landscaping plan, whether it's the front of the building or something in the back, just to beautify the area. We even mentioned, I'm not sure if we should talk about now, even the area behind the building, the previous area, the green area, we're trying to expand it all the way to the gas station wall, since the same owner, trying to make it bigger green area for residents over in that area.
What about the design of the building? Were they happy with it, the design review?
They absolutely loved it, as I recall, as I know. They had no
comments or corrections?
I don't have my notes in front of me, but I know it was a unanimous support, and I don't know.
That's what I heard.
Yes. Yeah, it was.
Well, we got very, I'm sorry. We got very good feedback from them, especially they know the material we're using. We're using high quality material, very good looking material. The building is easy on the eye, it's very nice building looking. It's not like this kind of bricks and building, and that's really commercial. It's very nice residential area, a lot of greens area around it. They had very good comments, feedback about the building. We didn't hear anything about the building as far as material.
Some of it was the actual shrubbery in terms of the visual with trees being there lowers the building sense and feel, certain types of shrubs. There are two architects on that committee, and I think they were impressed, but also had some good feedback.
Mostly about the landscaping, I don't remember
Yeah.
anything, but they were happy.
George, you mentioned that Justin has a narrative, a whole paragraph on the design review, and his memo, he mentions it on privacy and even for headlights. So it sounds like that was a really good quality meeting with the.
Yeah, I'm trying to lower that.
Oh yeah, they mentioned
The lighting.
material to put on the windows,
windows, so
painting
that-
the window on the first
For
floor.
the first floor apartments,
Yes,
yep.
and that can be done using
By narrative, yeah.
putting high shrubs or tint the window for privacy and so on.
Yep.
That's a good point, yes.
Joe, I got a question for Justin. Now, the Borden is a 5-story building, am I right?
I believe so, yeah.
And did that have to get a height waiver?
No, it's a different zone. So this is in the town center zone, and that's in the RC Regional Commercial Zone. So it's a different height requirement, different set of regulations that governs that.
Okay, how much of a big deal is this waiver here? Is that a big deal at all?
That's up to you guys. So they're asking for the 8-foot waiver. They're allowed up to 40 feet. They're asking for 48. The regulations say that you can grant that waiver if it meets the sort of streetscape guidelines for Silas Deane. As I looked at this and I saw, they're removing the curb cut, they're, doing the street trees, they're adding a lot of green space. It seems to meet that, but that's really your guys' determination at the end of the day.
Can I comment on that? Because this came up through town staff discussions with the fire marshal. So one of the, and Marcus, I don't know if you want to comment on it, one of the height addition, those extra feet on each floor leads to a different way to approach some of the safety issues with the fire, as well as some of the design internal of the unit.
The additional height between floors allows for greater utilities, ease of utilities and whatnot, and on the top of the building.
Right, so better isolation, better insulation, even if we're gonna put the ducts and all the wiring within this, we don't have to put anything outside the building, everything's gonna be hidden, noise reduction, safety, there's so many things that help if you grant us that 8-foot addition.
This is in the town center? I thought town center stopped at the light there. No, it goes on?
It extends a bit further south, yeah.
Okay, all right. Just one quick comment. You mentioned that you received this memo today from Derek, our engineer.
Yes.
There's a lot of stuff here. I haven't even had a chance to really digest all this stuff. There's 32 items, and you said that you're okay with all of these?
Well, no, what I said was we're still digesting it as well, but nothing jumped out at Marcus.
I read through them, most of them are very minor, just
Yeah.
corrections on the maps or things that he would
I guess my
prefer to
question,
see.
Are there any in here that would be an issue for you?
I read through each of them, and I don't feel any of them are an issue that would cause us to need to come back or anything like that.
If I can make one additional point with that, first of all, I apologize that that memo came out so late, but
It happens.
you know how things go. And I reviewed it too. Lawrence, our new town engineer, or our new assistant town engineer, prepared that today. And it seems like it's pretty basic stuff. It's a lot of map work, just kind of correcting issues. Some are not even corrections. They're really just comments, things to think about as they're developing it. So I don't think there's anything there that's crippling for the project.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, that was my reaction too. It's kind of like show this,
Right.
that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, frankly, the only thing that concerned me was the height, because, there are no other four-story buildings that I can think of in the town center zone at all. Certainly not any near it, and particularly, I don't think Wethersfield Diner is a large building, but you have one with, essentially half or less of the footprint that's 4 times as high. It just seems kind of weird.
Yeah, I think we'd ask you to look at it in the totality of the approach, which is a upgrading of the site in a both visual and ease and pedestrian approach.
Yeah, I mean, I like how you've removed all the other buildings on the Silas Deane for this, too. It makes it much more attractive.
It's difficult to render all the buildings.
No, I know
It
that.
costs a lot of money to do that.
Looks like you clean them.
Yes, it does. I would admit that. I would also like to point out that the land does slope very gently down from Silas Deane, so it's not 4 stories up completely from Silas Deane. So it is sloping away some, so the building does set down a little bit from where the road is.
And then speak to the other side of Silas Deane, which is elevated as well.
Yeah, and
it's
on
not
the other
as
side
though
of
it's a
Silas
complete
Deane,
flat
the
area.
buildings are up above the ground. So we're, yes, it's taller than everything around it, but
But
our
how
hope is
much?
with the street trees
8
and
feet.
How much
8 feet.
taller than the others around it?
Depending what you mean by around it, across the street, next door, down the road,
We did
whatever.
all of the,
Well, I mean, everything is 1 story.
yeah, most things, a lot of things are 1 story,
Yeah.
2 stories.
Yeah, I mean, I purposely came that way tonight, just so I could remind myself. Anything else before we open it to the public? Dave?
Why do you have any retail also in one spot? Just because it's a lousy place for an apartment?
I'm sorry.
Why do you have retail at all? It's only one spot. It's
I think
just
it's
because
an
it's a
office,
lousy
it's
spot for
commercial
apartment.
office, first of all, not.
I understand
Yeah,
office,
yeah.
but why don't you have that as an apartment? It's just a lousy
It's
spot?
supposed to be mixed-use building,
Ah, okay.
mixed-use zone, so we need to have that retail space in the building to comply.
Well, you can have Sally's Pizza, and then we wouldn't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
You'd like to see a 3-story and eliminate the retail on the bottom?
You can't retail on the bottom. There's only one little corner is retail, the rest apartments on the bottom. The apartments on the
One
bottom.
less level, okay.
Well, you can't eliminate the retail office because it wouldn't be mixed use.
Right.
How much at the top? If you go on the roof, is a roof right there, is it down a couple of feet? Is there like, what do they call that? I don't know what they call it. A parapet, yeah.
There's a crown.
There's a parapet, yes.
What's that, 2 feet maybe? Is that much?
Typically, I believe it was a 2-foot parapet.
Okay.
yeah.
Is that hiding utilities then? Is it-
It hides the utilities
Utilities.
from view, yes.
So if we said take 2 feet off, we'd be looking at air conditioners on top.
Yes, yes.
Be like a high school, yeah.
Oh, don't even start.
Yeah, don't go there.
All right. Is there anybody in the public that wants to comment on this application? Anybody in the public? Doesn't look like it. All right.
We'll stay here and
Yeah,
be around if you need us.
I'll ask if anybody on the commission has any other questions?
Quick question, are 2 handicap parking spaces sufficient based on our regulations?
Mark, is
Yeah,
that-
so it's actually not our
Yeah.
regulations, it's ADA. If it's 25 to 50 spaces, you need 2 spaces, so.
And these will be market rents? It won't be, it'll be just for open market rents for all the units?
Yeah, it's workforce, kind of practical housing for this area. And as many of you know, the demand is there in Greater Hartford, and particularly in Wethersfield, for that kind of market rate.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to note, there's no one in the public here tonight, but we did get 1 letter of support for the application that's in your packet.
Yeah, I have that too. It's Tom Carson speaking in favor of it.
I guess that's good.
All right, anything else
All right.
before we close the hearing? If not, is there a motion to close the hearing?
Motion to close, Mr. Chairman.
All right,
Thank you.
all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstentions, okay. Hearing's
Thanks.
closed. Somebody want to make a motion on the application itself?
I'll make a motion for public hearing approval for 2181 24Z AM Group for a special permit in accordance with 5-2A2 permitted, and a waiver in accordance with 54B1 for the dimension and area requirements, the Wethersfield Zoning Regulations for a 4-story mixed-use building at 718 Silas Deane Highway, with reference to include the engineered data dated 5/7/24. That's the 32 bullets. Fire marshal's comments dated 5/7/24. I'd like to see, it's an approval for the 8-foot height waiver requirement. I'd like to include any comments from Justin's May 3rd comments, and with the understanding that an easement agreement will be in place with the abutting property owner.
I'll second.
Well, I think an easement agreement with Eversource and an easement
With
agreement
both.
with the abutting property.
Agreed.
Second it.
Okay. All right, any discussion?
I just think the height is nominal, and it's a stimulus to complement the other parcels on the deed. This is a needed property, it's a underutilized site, and highest and best use fits the mold. So
Yeah.
I think it's only a compliment to the applicants.
I think they've done a great job with this site, and it's going to be an improvement. It's going to look tall. There's no question it's going to look tall. But, I mean, the 8 feet isn't going to make it look any more tall. 40 feet is going to look tall. 48 feet is going to look tall. So I'm not so concerned with the 8 feet. And since they do have the right to go 40, I guess I'm not too worried about 48. So that's why I seconded it.
Anyone else? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
When are you going to be starting?
Tomorrow?
As soon as possible, we're just going to comply with the rest of the concern that Derek had, and work out with UI on the easement, and hopefully, if we get this rolling, we can start flowing with the project.
All right, good luck.
The gas station came out nice.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right.
It's tight, right? It's tight.
All right, next item, 3.4, public hearing, 2182-24Z. Magdalena Pelk seeking special permit in accordance with Section 351B4, permitted accessory uses of the Wethersfield Zoning Regulations for the outside storage of a camper RV over 18 feet of length in the driveway at 100 Wilmont Street.
Hi, my name is Magdalena Pelk. I live on 100 Wilman Street in Wethersfield, and my case is not as big as the two before, but it's very important for me and my family. We are campers for last 7 years. We actually purchased our first camper in 2017, and it's been parked on our driveway since then. Unfortunately, we didn't know that we need a special permission to park it, and recently we received a letter saying that we need that permission. That's why I'm here. After placing an application, we spoke to some of our neighbors, basically the ones that we had a chance to see, and everybody we spoke with were actually in favor of this. Nobody has anything against it. In fact, our neighbors that live next door, which are basically living, their yard is right next to our camper. They're currently in Florida, but they did sign a letter supporting us. So, and we also have 3 other letters from our other neighbors from across the street. Well, with the costs of the camper and the taxes for it and the taxes for the truck that we use to pull it, it's pretty expensive business, and if we have to pay for the storage, it would get so expensive. So can we actually park it in our driveway, continue parking it on our driveway, if you don't mind?
How long have you been parking it there?
Since 2017,
2017.
so almost 7 years.
Same
Your neighbors seem to be
one?
We had a slightly smaller one for the first 3 years, and now we have this one for 4 years. It's 2021, a camper, very well maintained. We purchased it brand new, so it's not a junk. It's pretty nice camper.
And you can't put it anywhere else on your lot?
Well,
I don't think you can get it behind.
No, we don't have enough.
It's a big item.
No, we don't
But your
have.
neighbors don't seem to mind.
No.
They think it's okay.
I mean, I think they like young families living on the street. Even the next door neighbors, they're retired, but they were really happy when we moved into that house because they said they like having growing families. Our daughter is 13 years old, so they're very nice. And the rest of the families
And then the
also.
rest on the other side seem to be supportive of you too.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
I said the other neighbors on the other side of the street seem to be supportive of you too.
Yeah,
And they have to see it almost more than the next adjoining neighbor.
that's true. They have kids too. We have a very good neighborhood.
It is a big item,
Yeah.
I gotta admit that, but it doesn't seem to be too intrusive. I think you've got a short stone wall on the upside of your property, so upside of the driveway, so that kind of protects it too a little bit.
Yeah, and it looks like there isn't enough room between the fence and the side of your house to back it into the backyard,
Yeah.
even if you wanted to.
There isn't any room, I walked it, so.
Okay.
No. And the backyard is very
You can't do anything
small.
on the right side, and you wouldn't want to do that, a driveway down that side.
I mean, the backyard is very small. It's probably no more than 20 feet wide.
Yeah, I didn't walk back there, but I could have. I don't think you can get around there. You can't get around the garage, I don't think.
No, you
No.
You can't.
No room.
Okay.
I think if you went really
Well,
fast, you probably
well,
could.
or knock down the neighbor's newly planted shrubs out there.
No, they have
They wouldn't like that.
maintained very nicely. We wouldn't want to do that.
Dave?
The problem is the same problem we have with all these. You know, once you start,
That's it.
you seem very nice, your neighbors are nice, I think the thing looks nice, but the trouble is, we draw the line, and as soon as you do one, you gotta do everybody. I don't know, this is a tough one, it's always the same thing.
Justin, the one we denied was a corner lot, and almost same situation. You really didn't have a lot of choices because it was a corner lot. What was the size of that one? I can't remember. I was looking for it, but I couldn't remember.
I want to say it was 26.
And this is 24?
24? Yeah.
So, I couldn't remember how big that was.
Yeah, I think it was 26, if memory serves.
I mean, we had a discussion about consistency here, so this is why it's tough.
But also, Pete, there are differences in all of these. And this one, for example, that stone wall is 2.5 feet, and you can't go on the other side. And I don't even think you certainly can't get it in the backyard, and it's a big item. But I don't think it's a problem in the neighborhood at all, and the support is strong there, so it's strong.
I understand your point, but we said otherwise in the other one in the corner lot, not too long ago.
Yeah.
You could have made the same discussion then. I mean, it's tough.
It is.
Unless we want to get to the point of saying, get rid of the whole rule, which I don't think we do, and just open it up to anything, which I don't think we want to do.
Well, that's going to be a subject we're going to talk about once we're done with this.
Yeah?
Yeah.
We're going to what? I didn't hear you.
No, you didn't. We're going to talk about the subject generally after this application is addressed.
Yeah.
Tom.
A couple of the aspects on this particular site. There's also screening from the adjacent house by the series of shrubs that as they grow, they're going to pretty much hide this this trailer from neighbors on that. The other aspect of the site is it looks like the house is pretty far away from the street, and the street has no sidewalks on it, so any observation of this is going to be from people that are passing by, basically driving, and so it doesn't, to me, appear to be something that is untoward and out of character for the neighborhood for this particular kind of waiver to take place. So when you take all those factors in consideration, I think that, at least from my perspective, the weight seems to favor the application more than the detrimental arguments. And we've got this, the regulations permit having, the a waiver by special permit to this, the standard principle of the matter, and I think the history kind of shows that the commission has been pretty sympathetic to property owners who have, who tend to run afoul of the, the strict regulations. So until we really address this matter in terms of an established principle for consistent enforcement in our regulations, then I tend to favor the the equities of the matter going toward the applicant.
George.
Yeah, I agree with Tom, but essentially here you have a stone wall. You have a difficulty on the left side of the house with accommodating it. You can't do much except where it is. And the neighbors seem to not have a problem with it. Otherwise, we would hear about that. So I think we ought to be consistent and probably go along with this one.
Anybody else? Tom?
Have you looked for other sites to store this, be it in Silas Deane or up on the Berlin Turnpike? Have you considered different locations?
I
just for us?
did, but in the towns where we're not afraid that it's going to get, basically, that something's going to get stolen from it, it's pretty costly, and we would probably be forced to sell it if,
Just beyond budget to
Yeah.
relocate?
Yeah. I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't want this next to my house. I understand your neighbors are all nice and you're probably a very nice person, but I don't know how you decide we've done this 100 times over the years. Someone comes in with something too big, we usually give them time to do something, but, you know, I mean, you approve this, which is, okay, approve it. There's gonna be 20 people coming in here next week and say, I want mine approved too, just because he has a couple of shrubs next door that are 4 feet tall. I mean, I feel for it, but, you know, unless we change the rules. If we're gonna change the rules, we gotta change it for everybody. If we get the 18 feet, get rid of it then. We'll make a vote or something, say no more 18 feet, we'll get rid of it, go to 30 feet. So what do you wanna do? And make sure, you know, put some refrigerators out there in the driveway too and everything else. I mean, I just say, you gotta draw it somewhere. And I understand, I'm not being mean here, because it really doesn't look that bad, but that we have rules. And, you know, if someone, you know, if there's 19 feet or whatever, but I don't know, this is a door you're gonna open. That's how I feel about it. Yeah, you gotta,
well, our neighbors were actually surprised that there's a problem. They were actually shocked. They said they could come here if it's going to help us, but according to Justin, the letters were enough.
I guess
well, we understand your neighbors they probably all like you a lot. I mean, you seem to be a nice person, I'm sure they all like you.
Yeah, I mean, this is a problem that we're having just...
We run into this all the time. It's a tough one.
What's bothering me tonight is the inconsistency of what we're
Right.
doing. We told the guy just not too long ago, no. Are we gonna say because his was 2 feet
We had a
longer?
guy with a boat, he had no
Yeah.
spot, he moved it to the back. I don't
I
know,
mean,
it's a tough one.
There's so much inconsistency in this stuff, drives me crazy.
Let's get rid of it. If we're not gonna obey the somewhat the rules, just let's get rid of them. And make sure the public knows it and put in Wethersfield Life and everything else that we don't care about that stuff anymore, and that's okay.
And with all due respect, George, I don't agree that a few shrubs and a wall are mitigating factors. I don't. It's big, and it's out front, just like the other one that the guy brought and we said no to. So, I mean, that guy would have a right to come back and throw the book at us if we approve this.
Exactly right.
And how
So
long?
should we, he's gonna review this soon, our town planner, and maybe make suggestions as to how we deal with these.
Right. I am okay with giving her a 1-year extension until we sort this out.
Or she could figure out what to do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
or
we don't
she-
wanna get her in trouble to say you
Or
gotta rid
she
of some,
could,
but you
or you
gotta
could do something else.
come up with
As
a
we're
plan.
trying to figure out what we want to do with these things, you have a year to do something else. If this board decides that we want to get rid of this regulation, then you're okay. But if this board doesn't, then a year from now, we may be back at the same point.
Since when does the town have this regulation? When was it initially?
2004.
I mean, these things are growing. In 2004, you have very small campers. These days, people, they basically make them bigger.
Yeah, it's not in 2004, we didn't have anybody enforcing the zoning regulations either.
So we had to do something. So I'd be willing to go for a time frame. I'm okay with that, but I think it would be wrong for us to approve this, given what we just did not too long ago to that other guy.
All right, well, let's just kind of keep things in order.
Okay.
I don't see anybody in the public for the public hearing. We do have the correspondence from the neighbors.
Yep.
You know, is there anything else that we want to hear from or speak to the applicant before we close the hearing and resume our own deliberations?
Just one further comment. We're pointing out that in one relatively recent case, an applicant was denied, but kind of looking at the record, in the majority of the cases, such waivers, such permits have been have been agreed upon by the commission. And in the majority of the cases, the applicants have received what they wanted to receive. So the inconsistency is more in the denial rather than in the acceptance.
All right, someone want to close the hearing?
So moved. Go ahead.
All right, second?
Second.
All right, all in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention? Okay. Someone want to make a motion on the application?
I'll make a motion that we approve the request here to store this 24-foot trailer. This is public hearing 218224Z. Magdalena seeking a special permit in accordance with section 3514B4, which is permitted accessory uses in the Wethersfield Zoning Regulations for an outside storage of a camper RV over 18 feet in length and driveway at 100 Wilmot Street for the period of 1 year.
Second.
Okay, Tom?
Mr. Chairman, I would tend to vote for the motion, except for the fact that I think, given the length of time it typically takes the commission to revise or adopt regulations, I would tend to favor, doubling the period to a period of 2 years rather than 1. And secondly, that in the event the applicant is forced to reapply, to waive the requirements for fees and the like in a reapplication for the permit.
All right. Is that an amendment that you're
So I
making?
would propose that as amendment.
Okay.
If the movers, the second of the amendment, will
Yeah.
agree to that.
I'm okay with that, because I think we give it 2 years to the guy with the boat? Yeah, so that's fine. That's consistent with what we did with that guy, so I'm okay with 2
Don't
years.
forget, there was another guy with a boat that we told him to put it on his backyard.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, that was inconsistent, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we just, like, 6 months ago, said put it in the backyard.
Yeah.
He had a wall, he had a fence, he had a backyard.
Yeah, I know,
I'm saying.
I know.
I'll give him a call, tell him to come back.
I'll accept,
I'll go the 2 years. We just
I'll
do it.
accept the 2 years, I'll accept the 2 years, that's fine. We have
And
to,
also the waiver of the fees.
the waivers make sense, yes.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Any more discussion on that? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
You
Do you
understand?
understand what we just did? I'm not sure you
So you
understand.
approve it for 2 years, and then we should reapply
No,
it to
but
Well, you may not have to reapply, or you may reapply to, if we change it so that it goes to zoning board of appeals instead of to us,
Yeah.
or if the regulation goes away. I mean, our hope is to do something about the regulation in that period of time.
Or you have 2 years to kind of come up with a plan to put it somewhere.
put it on the
Or I
website.
hope your neighbors still like you.
But you're good for 2 years. You're all set
Okay.
for 2 years, yeah.
So when is the official end of those 2 years?
From the,
From today, 2 years from today.
From today?
Yeah.
Okay. Great, thank
Okay.
you.
good. Have a good evening.
Take care.
Let's do the minutes first, and then we can get to the other stuff. Minutes of April 2nd, 2024. I was not here.
Motion to approve?
Second,
Any corrections? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Next,
Just very well written, Mr. Chairman, very well written.
yeah, they're very good. Next ones are April 16th, 2024.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Right. Any discussion, any corrections? All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, staff reports. I don't know if you'd all gotten to the point in the packet where there's a memo from Justin about several sections of the zoning regulations, including the one that we just discussed.
Yeah, so I'll kind of just go through quickly in order here. So if you see in my memo, there's, I don't know, 6 or 7 sections that either need to be updated per state statute or would be good for us to update based on all of our discussions. So just going through them really quick. 3.4.f, and you see in the memo and then you see on the following pages, there are sort of the cross-out versions of, what I'm proposing here. 3.4.f is minimum floor area of units. You're going to see this public act come up a lot, 21-29. It was sort of a overarching zoning amendment to the state statutes. In this particular case, it stated that towns can no longer require a minimum square footage for apartment buildings, for apartment units. The only thing that we can require is that they meet the building code. Go ahead.
We have no choice on this is it.
What's happening right now is our regulations are unenforceable. So if someone comes in and doesn't meet our regulations, we can't enforce them. We have to go by what the state says. So this is sort of a, bringing our regulations up to speed so we're not confused and the public's not confused. So that's that one. Then we get to the boats, RVs, trailers one. So this is an interesting one. As you guys know, we get these applications fairly regularly. You have another one before you next meeting. What's been sort of triggering this lately too is we've been getting a lot of complaints about them from basically the same person, but they are violations. So, when the zoning enforcement officer gets the complaint, it is technically a violation, so he enforces it. So that's why you're seeing a lot of these right now.
Good man, doing his job.
He's doing his job, so that's why we've been having sort of an uptick. But it is bringing to light some of these inconsistencies, some of these issues that we're having here. So, we've talked in the past, okay, well, what do we do? So I have this is sort of a two-part thing. One is that in the regulations, I sort of temporarily suggested that we change it from a special permit to a special exception with the Zoning Board of Appeals. Reason for that is it kind of gets it out of this board's hand, which is, in theory, should be focusing on some of the bigger items. And it also sort of coincides with what the special exception already is in the regulations, which is about commercial vehicles. So now, if this were approved like this, any vehicle type use would go to Zoning Board of Appeals instead of Planning and Zoning Commission. That said, if you flip another few pages, somewhere in here, there is I hope it's in here. Oh yeah, it's actually the first page after my memo. I just put together a quick spreadsheet of what other towns do and how they regulate them. So ours have a limit of 18 feet. In comparison, Newington allows 45 feet. Glastonbury and Rocky Hill don't have a size requirement. Windsor is 25 feet and East Hartford is 30 feet. Newington has a maximum height of 13.5 feet. No other towns have a height maximum. And then you can kind of see in the location, there are different options. We require it to be the rear yard. Some other towns allow the side yard. Rocky Hill actually allows the driveway. So you can kind of read through that and, just.
So Glastonbury, Rocky Hill, you can bring any boat in you want, like park it there and be done with it. Is that the rule?
Pretty much.
As long as it's in the backyard.
Or the driveway. Rocky Hill allows the driveway too. And a maximum of 2, right? We have a maximum of 1.
What do you want to do? Rewrite the right here to cover it better?
I think it might be in order.
I'm in favor of you doing it. Without you really getting into detail.
Yeah.
Because it appears that
I mean, if you move this to another body, they're going to struggle with the same stuff we're struggling. Inconsistency, unless we change something that makes it easier for for them to deliberate, you know?
So I'm kind of suggesting a two-step approach here. One, we make it a special exception just so
Okay.
that this group can focus on sort of bigger picture things. And two, so that way we can amend this to at least bring it somewhat up to speed and have some conditions, say if we allow it, it has to be screened or something like that. Give some,
Having sort of absolute standards for like maximum length, maximum height, in one way it stands to reason. However, in Wethersfield, you have so many different size residential lots. And I tend to think that one needs to tie the standard to the lot configuration, the size, the general
Side yard.
restrictions of those particular lots within the town zoning regulations in terms of what's allowed and what's not allowed, relative to setbacks, maximum lot coverage. I would tend to think that you'd need to include maybe, these accessory uses such as boats, recreational vehicles, trailers and the like. People are going to want to do that, but I think you're going to need to have those things fit into what is there in terms of the lot size, the house size, things of that nature. And to me, it makes more sense to have sort of multiple criteria for multiple situations rather than one size fits all kind of standard.
Sure.
Well, just to kind of build on that, the whole concept of something being allowed by special permit is that it's allowed. I mean, we're kind of looking at it from the perspective that it's prohibited, and we're deciding whether or not to grant a variance. Special permit is kind of the opposite of a variance. It's not something that's prohibited. It's something that is permitted in the zone as long as it meets the criteria and satisfies both the general and the specific requirements for granting the special permit. And a lot of the things that you have described are the general special permit criteria of, harmony with the neighborhood and not incongruous and not depreciating property values and so forth. So, although the whole, thing that we butt up against constantly is, the idea of a precedent and how do you differentiate one from the other, frankly, that's the whole point of a special permit, is that you're never really setting a precedent because every circumstance is different, but you're approaching it from the perspective that the use is one that the commission has determined is permitted as long as these other conditions are met, rather than, where it's prohibited unless you can prove that, you can't put it in the backyard or something like that. So, I mean, that's just sort of another reason why this is complicated.
Yeah, but sort of what I kind of hear you saying is that, the application for the special permit, should be granted unless it's defeated by the general standards within the zoning regulations.
Yeah, I mean, we approved the apartment building as a special permit, and, they didn't have to prove that they couldn't build a smaller building or that they could put it further back or anything. It was just sort of the general standard permit criteria.
The presumption and the attitude going into the application.
Right.
If you look at these rules, we could change that boat to 25 feet, still gotta go in the back though. The problem is always the side of the back, it's not the length of the boat.
Right.
Some guy bought a house, and they all do it, and it's not big enough to have what you want, right? So, I want to be fair to everybody, but the reality is, it's not the boat size, it's that you can't get in the backyard.
Yeah, that and, I didn't know there was a rule.
Well, no, okay, but that's,
Yeah.
you should know there's a rule. I mean, I understand, there's places where you live, and, you know, but, you know.
But Dave, you bring up a really good point, because technically, if you have a, 25-foot boat and it's in the rear yard, you're still supposed to have a special permit. It's just the odds are we're not gonna find out about it.
Well, she should have filled out the permit and said it was 18 feet.
There you go.
But you still had to put in the back, though.
Right.
The reality is, the problem is not the both sides, it's, you gotta get in the back of the side. That's-
Exactly.
Anyway, so whatever you guys want to do.
So, none of this here is for, I'm not looking for your guys' approval tonight. What I really want to do is introduce this to you guys, and then next meeting, we'll talk about it again to kind of, after you've had some time to sit on it and, think about
And
it.
this is a good chart.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that, I know you guys have been dealing with since 2004. So-
It's amazing, Rocky, that was pretty tough. They said maximum of 2.
Yeah, 2.
You got bumped to 2.
Yeah, the thing I noticed about, the chart of the surrounding towns is, well, except for Windsor, all those towns are of more recent vintage in terms of establishment as opposed to Wethersfield. And the amount of land area in those towns is much broader than the very constricted land area in Wethersfield.
Yeah.
And so, therein lies the kind of a reality for the evolution of our present standards and the regulations.
And I can certainly do more research and expand this into some different towns and stuff too. This was sort of just a first, initial look at it to kind of give you guys an idea of what, some of the surrounding towns are doing. But I think that's a good point too. It might make sense to look into some towns where the lots are a little bit more comparable.
Well, I think Tom's right with the exception of East Hartford. East Hartford is worse than Wethersfield, believe me. I lived in East Hartford. And they allow 30 feet.
Yeah.
So are we saying this is going to move more towards a variance type of approach?
Not so much a variance, but it's what our regulations call a special exception. And the only real difference between a special exception and a special permit is who's approving it. So the special exception goes to the Zoning Board of Appeals, the special permit goes through this group.
Do they have to approve that? Or you could just pass it to them?
Yep. You guys can just pass it to them. I can't do anything. But if you guys decide to amend the regulations that say, where it goes, it might be good to ask them.
Yeah, but like Peter says, they're gonna have the same problems we have.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we've had correspondence with the current chairperson of the ZBA. I think if we do kind of push this along, having a joint meeting with them, or, making sure that they are aware of it and come to the public hearing is a good idea.
Right.
And also, they need to realize that there is a difference between a variance and a special exception. They're kind of wearing different hats when they going from one to the other.
Right. They're not looking for a hardship in this case. They're only, So, again, all of this bears more thought. It's just to kind of get you guys thinking of what direction you might want to head in with this.
And we have one more coming up, you said, next?
Yep. So, so just in the interest of time, moving along here, accessory apartments, this is basically the same situation as the first one I talked about. The state, again, required that, we have to change our regulations. The one caveat with this one is currently our regulations say that you can have an accessory apartment as long as it is a maximum of 850 square feet or 40% of the primary dwelling and the accessory apartment, whichever is less. So you get to combine the square footage of the two and then do that 40% figure.
An accessory has to have the common entranceway?
It used to, by our regulations, it no longer can require.
You can have two separate entranceways.
By state.
You can have two separate entranceways, you can have two separate buildings.
When did that change?
2021.
All under the same statute.
Yeah.
Got it.
It was a blanket change for zoning regs.
State statute.
Yeah. So in terms of those two requirements, I'm sorry, so we have the 850 square foot or the 40%. The state says 1,000 square feet or 30% of the principal dwelling, not combined. So this might be something where I could put together some, examples of numbers and whatnot, but in some situations, the state statute is more lenient, and in some situations, our regulations would be more lenient. We have to be at least as lenient as the state says, but we could be more lenient. So that's something for you guys to think about too. Do you want to keep that 40% of the combined as opposed to the 30%? That's up to you guys. So just something to think about. And again, that I can put together some numbers for that one. I think that might make more sense if we put together some, if you have a smaller house on a smaller lot versus a house on, Hangdog Lane that's, big and, 40% might be a whole lot different. So that's that. Section 3.6. This is something that the ZBA chair had talked to Rich and I about. There had been some emails back and forth. There's a confusing section in our regulations that in one section it says that you can't have garage space that's over 850 square feet in total. And then in another section, we say that you can't have a standalone garage that's over 850 square feet. The way those are worded right now, it almost implies, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I understand it was that it almost implies that you could obtain a variance for it as opposed to a special permit from this group. Yep. Traditionally, they've come into this group for a special permit if you have a garage over 850 square feet in size.
Yeah, because the second part of that line on the regulations is if it's over this size, you can get it by special permit, but on the page before, it doesn't say that.
Right.
So it implies that you only can do it with a variance.
Right. And I think over time, it's generally been done that they come here, but I think recently it was the case where they went to the ZBA to get a variance, and then, again, we're back to the same issue with consistency. You can't have two different groups approving essentially the same thing with different, like you said, Tom, variance rules versus special permit rules. It's just not fair. So this is kind of trying to address that, and then it ties in with one of the other sections as well, because we essentially would have to correct the two sections in order to, bring them together. Moving on, 5.2 and 5.3. Another state statute that changed, different state statute, but still changed. We can no longer require a special permit for outdoor seating at a restaurant. So in the past, if a restaurant is proposing to have an outdoor patio, they'd either add a patio and come in for a special permit, or if they were just proposing a restaurant in the first place, but they had a patio, it would kick it up from a site plan to a special permit approval. We can't require that anymore. That happened, 2022 or something, I think.
So, it happened by executive order under COVID, and then the legislature made it permanent.
Right.
Isn't the Charles on the docket to come up for that?
It's no longer on the docket.
That's why it's not.
Because of this. So they no longer have to come through us for that approval. The only thing we can require is an administrative approval to basically make sure they're not encroaching on sidewalks, creating safety issues, that kind of thing.
Right.
So that's why you haven't seen it on your agenda for, I think, this meeting and the last meeting.
I was wondering why it fell well.
Yeah, so that's, now with that doesn't, the statute doesn't preclude them from going to the Historic District Commission, so they still have to go through that. But in terms of planning and zoning, we can't require anything like a hearing. So this would, again, just fix that, because right now, if you look at our regulations, it says outdoor seating requires a special permit.
So outdoor seating is a matter of right now?
Correct.
Yes, it's deemed to be an accessory use permitted as of right.
Do the restaurants know this?
Yes. Their association does.
The association does. I'm surprised it hasn't mushroomed.
I think it's still sort of catching some people by surprise, even restaurants. I've talked to a few.
Just like the granny pods and accessory buildings. Yeah.
Right. I talked to a few restaurants recently that were, just sort of thinking of it, and they're like, oh, I saw I have to get a special permit, but they clearly weren't aware, so I had to tell them, well, actually, no, you don't.
So you just buy some chairs and put them outside and have a ball then, right?
They have to get, like I said, they have to get the staff approval, but that's just to make sure that it's not, causing, yeah, exactly. So that's that one. So, as you can see, some of these are a lot easier fixes than others. And then, last one here, section 6.2.C.8, we're again back to Public Act 21-29. This actually goes into the parking discussion that we had tonight about how much parking we can require for apartment buildings. Right now, our regulations say that every apartment unit has to have 1.5 parking spaces. Per the new state statutes, we can only require 1 parking space per studio or 1-bedroom apartment, or 2 parking spaces per 2-bedroom or larger.
So that could have, so if you wait a month, you may have to go bigger then.
In theory, depending on what you guys decide. Now, you could go less. You could say, 1 per 1-bedroom or studio, and 1.5 per 2-bedroom, but you can't go more than that.
So the legislature is doing zoning regulations now.
Well, you could argue that 21-29 basically did that.
I always worried about that when I worked for the state.
Well, they know best.
So, like I mentioned, some of these are more optional and open for discussion, and some of them are, basically at some point we got to do it just to make our regulations consistent. So I'm really not asking for anything for you guys right now, but be thinking about this, think about what you want to do. We can discuss it again in a couple weeks. Once you're ready to move it to a public hearing, we have to give the Council of Governments 30 days to review these proposals, so it's going to trigger a bit longer of a time frame than usual, but, we've been out of date with these for 3 years now, so.
Justin, would this be one public hearing for all 6 issues, or would it be a variety of public hearings to complement the complexities of each? I see a mixed bag going on in the state of Connecticut.
Yeah, that's up to you guys. The easiest way to do it might be do one public hearing for the changes that we kind of have to do by the state, because we can get the public comment, people can argue it all we want, but we're limited with what we can do. And then, maybe some of the ones we're going to have more of more feedback, more thoughts, like the campers, RVs, that might be a separate thing.
Are you confident on the level of critique that you've done so far with the specific sections that need to be changed? Or is it still work in progress?
The ones that need to be changed per the state?
Yeah.
This is fairly comprehensive, I think. I don't know if you can think of anything else, Rich.
No, they're still in session for another 36 hours, but so far, I think you've gotten everything.
For what we've had under this 21, Public Act 21, whatever.
Yeah, these are things that have needed to be changed. And I think it's responsive to your question. I can't think of any other sections of our regulations that have been rendered obsolete or illegal based on.
Other than these.
Yeah.
Good effort. Thank you.
If you put a 24-foot boat in your driveway, you have to own it?
You put your boat in my driveway, I'm gonna own it.
No, I didn't see anything that says you have to own it.
Are you asking, could you rent the space to somebody?
Oh, seriously, I'm just curious. I haven't seen anything that says someone has to own the boat.
Well, you have a big backyard, you can just store other people's boats back.
Put it in the driveway, that's easy for the rental. But that's a good facetious.
No, it's a good question,
I haven't seen any such that they actually own the boat or own the trailer.
Good question.
No, that is a good question, and I think you could certainly put something in the regulations that says it has to be owned by the...
Maybe the first question I asked the lady, do you own it? And she said, no, I don't own it. Change her mind pretty quick, I don't know.
You have to, you have to reside at the residence in order to have... Yeah, I think that'd be a fair regulation.
I don't know. Like if your kid lives in the apartment next to the gas station and wants to keep his boat at your house, they should be able to.
So when we get 20 applications next, because we're talking about everybody renting their driveway.
All right, so, that's basically what I had for that. If you guys have questions, thoughts, certainly we can talk about it next time, but you know how to find me.
No, I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
I think it was very comprehensive, so we'll just deal with it next time, that's fine.
Yeah. And then just two more things. One is a question, one is just info. Those of you who are participating in the POCD update, I think you know that the meeting is tomorrow, the kickoff meeting, so that'll be good.
Where is it gonna be again? What room?
Right next door, town managers.
Right.
Yep.
5, right?
5 o'clock. Yep. So for those that will be there, we'll see you tomorrow. For those that won't be there, we can update you next meeting. And then the last thing I had, this was a question from Lynn for me to ask you guys. In terms of the meetings, when we send out the agendas and whatnot, would a calendar invite help? Do you guys use like a digital calendar?
Sure.
Would that?
Yep.
Yeah?
Yep. Certainly would help me.
The one where you just say accept and it goes to my calendar.
Yep,
Whatever you do.
that one. Yep. Yep.
It's always nice.
We can do that. Okay.
So that's what you need.
Yeah, I just set it up as like a standing appointment on mine, just so that I wouldn't forget.
Yeah, I think the idea with that was, that way if you click yes or you click no, at least we have, some sort of idea of, who's going to be here, that kind of thing. So.
I can still email you with like.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah. And that's all I have.
Yeah, because that was how they used to do it during Zoom times.
Just, I have a question. Oh, I'm sorry, go on.
The training classes, I know I got a piece of paper written down, there's one coming up, but I haven't done any this year myself. The one that they had, I couldn't go to that one. Did she send something
No,
out?
I don't think you have to do it every year.
No, I thought you had to do 3 or 4 a year.
Every 2 years.
4 years.
4 years?
I think it's 4 years.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's a
Okay.
good thing. Okay.
Then you really
I'm good for 4 years.
Yeah.
They also tape them.
They do. Yeah, you can always, if you go to the Yukon.
I just didn't worry about like half or 2 years,
Yeah.
geez, I'm way behind, but I'm.
Yeah.
I love Glastonbury, it doesn't matter what size.
Justin, I have friends out Westgate. I don't know if you heard what's going on over there. I guess the teachers were complaining about the traffic. They couldn't get into the school in time. So the principal allowed them to open the back gate on
Yes.
Westgate, and now you have this huge traffic going down
Yes.
Westgate.
Yes, no, I have heard about that.
Okay.
And so what's going on with that, just so you guys know, that road, and there's a Wintergreen? I think it's Wintergreen, that little access point.
Oh, Westway?
Westway, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was like,
apologize.
where is
No,
this?
that's my fault. It was the back gate in Westway. I added them together.
Okay.
So, yeah, you've probably seen in front of the school, they have those like signs out now. They're trying something with that in terms of traffic control. So temporarily, they allowed that emergency access to be used for staff and teacher entrance. I did find out about that, and I did inform them that they do need to come back into this group to amend their site plan if they're going to change that from solely an emergency access into a, access point for staff, or who knows in the future. So I talked to the town manager about that, and he's letting them do it for a test period throughout the rest of this year. If they decide that they're going to continue it, they have to come here sometime over the summer in order to get that approval.
Okay.
So.
Believe it or not, there are a lot of things that differ from the approved site plan over there that never came back here.
Somehow that doesn't surprise me.
No, I'm just saying.
Do you think it's worth a comprehensive review if they have to come back in for that anyway?
Which site plan is it?
Yeah, I mean, probably most of them are, fait accompli at this point, but there were a substantial number of things that were changed and done that are not consistent with the approved site plan.
Good to know.
Buses and all the traffic, they can't get into the school.
And we told them that the traffic flow wouldn't work.
Down Westway, and go behind the school.
What was changing the website has been interesting to watch. It's made major changes in access to information for the town website.
Well, hopefully it's going to be getting even better soon.
Implementing whoever's working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to now have like 5 places you can look for something instead of 1.
Hopefully Theo is hearing the compliments in the back.
Yes, thank you, IT.
All right, anything else anybody wants to discuss or bring up? So what do we have next time?
Let's see. Well, we got one RV, but then we also have Raising Cane's, which is, they're looking to demo Denny's and put up a new fast food restaurant called Raising Cane's, if you've heard of it. Chicken. Yep. They've got one.
My kids have been talking about it for weeks.
Apparently, I've never been, but apparently it's amazing. There's one location in Enfield, and I guess the first few weeks they were open, it was
Unbelievable.
packed. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, my son's dorm was behind it on Commonwealth Avenue in Boston, and it was very popular. It's good that we have the poultry district down there, you know, Raising Cane's, Buffalo Wild Wings, KFC.
And I'm glad you're getting more restaurants in the Silas Deane.
Yep.
And whenever I come in your office upstairs and I give her hell for not getting more restaurants in the Silas Deane,
We're getting there.
she'll have an answer.
Are we doing anything with the DMV building? Is that going to come to us or something?
Good question. So there have been rumors that DMV might be decommissioned.
Right.
There's no set endpoint with that. There's no, we really don't know a lot right now. But that is something that I am working on in terms of thinking about if that building gets decommissioned. One thing that I think we should do, this group should do, is create a floating zone that would allow some sort of development there that would, you know.
We could put a prison there.
We could put a prison there, yeah. We might still have the electric chair somewhere.
Real good.
But I understand the building's a piece of junk. Always was. Now I was thinking of
That's a
moving
state
over
building,
there,
right?
and thank God we didn't.
Yeah, I mean, it was
Fall down the first
The state
day.
sold to us for $1?
We're hoping there's gonna be some sort of situation like that, but we
So
just
that's
don't know.
what is it, Yale bought Bear Corporation for $1.
Yeah.
Or they put it.
They bought all the mess with it.
Yeah, wouldn't it be
What,
okay with it?
what I've heard in terms of the DMV is they want to sort of decentralize it and just have a bunch of smaller offices in different areas throughout the state.
Makes sense.
So sort of like the AAA model of how you go to like a AAA location and that kind of thing. But
Sounds
again,
good to me.
none of this is set in stone, so, and I'm not speaking for DMV.
Yeah, I mean, I think we had the same idea presented to us like 20 years ago when Governor Rowland was going to move it over to Waterbury. And everybody was trying to think about what they could do there, and, you know, it was before the town hall renovation took place, and everybody was thinking like, oh, we can drag everybody over there. And, you know, then there was an inspection of how much asbestos there was in the building, and it was determined to be a scary idea rather than a good idea, so.
Especially those long hallways that just add to the damn problem, too. Besides a junky building.
Anything else, Mr. Chair?
So something's around.
Motion to adjourn?
All right,
Second.
all in favor?
Second.
Aye.
We could kiss the last 15 years.